Namaskaram to all and a very good evening. So we will start our session. Chaturmukha Samarambham Vagbhadacharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Vadyandam Vande Guru Paramparam Ragadirogan Sadatan Shaktan Sheshakaya Prasrutan Sheshan Aulsukya Moha Aradidan Jakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So we are trying to explain dosha dushti. But every time we come to that topic, first of all, we have to understand what we are talking about is. Then only you will get the idea clearly. That technique is lost. That methodology is lost. All of you might have seen or at least heard about Dr. Kishore Patwardhan's new paper published the other day, which is a survey, and the survey reveals that there are no Vaidyas, there are no practitioners of Ayurveda who is using any of the Ayurvedic methods for diagnosis. So it is very, very interesting, and I think the survey should be true. There is no doubt about it. The survey should be true by all means, the outcome. Because the technique is gone. So how can you expect somebody to use a technique which she or he is not familiar with? Isn't it? So whenever I am trying to explain what dosha dushti is, I am getting stuck because I am not very confident about whether the listeners or our fellow learners are familiar with the idea what I am trying to communicate. Basically, this is a learning series for clinical methodology in Ayurveda. So it is a Sambhasha Parishat, where it is specifically a Nidana Sambhasha Parishat. So our aim is to understand how the Rogarogi Pariksha is done or can be done with an Ayurvedic outlook. So what I am trying to say is, whenever I am trying to enter into the topic, the topic proper, I am getting back again and again, and I get stuck with the basic ideas which are to be communicated again and again. This time also the same thing is going to happen. That is not a problem, I hope. In our last session, we found that the basic nourishment of Sharira is happening in the level of, or at the level of Bhutas. And this statement that the basic nourishment of Sharira is happening at the level of Bhutas is a highly generalized one, isn't it? Aharam, then Ahara Pajanam by Agni, Sarakitta Vibhajanam, then Kitta Adhonayanam, and the assimilation of Saram. And this Saram is an undifferentiated matter. I am afraid I have explained this concept many times earlier, but that doesn't matter, because see, avartano abhyasaha. If you have to understand some idea, sometimes we will have to repeat it, and then only that will be a standard version. So this saram, which is formed from the ahara, is an undifferentiated matter with all the bhuta components within. Subsequently, by the action of bhutagnis and dhattvagnis, the dhadus are formed from it. Bhutagnis, then dhattvagnis. So, all the good and bad impacts on dhatus are fundamentally dependent upon this mechanism. By default, all the good and bad impacts that can be there on dhadus are dependent upon this mechanism of saram, bhutagni, dhatvagni operations. The saram of aharam or ahara saram and rasadhadu, ahara saram and rasadhadu, they are similar in almost all of their characteristics. But just for the sake of technical perfection, we can find some difference between them. Ahara saram and rasadhatu. See, again, I am just reminding you that we are going to reach, not to discuss at this point, but we are going to reach the concept of dosha dushti at some point, if possible today or some other day. So please listen. Rasa dhadu is a part of the dhadu parampara, whereas ahara sara is the stage just prior to that. Just prior to that. The name Sara is replaced by the name Rasa. Right at the matra, the time, the point when dhattvagnis start their operations. So I am just giving you the pure technical difference. For all practical purposes, this may not be taken into consideration, but technically such a thing is there. And the quality of ahara saram, is definitely going to be reflected in the first dhadu, adya dhadu, that is rasa. And the quality of the adya dhadu is going to be reflected in the subsequent dhadus as well. Going to be reflected in the subsequent dhadus as well. This is again very important. Try to visualize this. Aharasaram, rasadhadu, subsequent dhadus. Quality of aharasaram, quality of rasadhadu, quality of subsequent dhadus. Hope the picture is clear. Now, see, Panchabhutas are the building materials of four dhadus. They are the building materials. Again, we have mentioned this, discussed this multiple times earlier. Still, I am repeating it. Panchabhutas are the building materials of all dhadus. And each dhatu has a unique blend of Panchabhutas. Each dhatu has a very unique blend. And this unique Panchabhautika combination is the result of a certain Paka or Parinama Visheshas. For each dhatu, we propose or we envisage Paga Visheshas or Parinama Visheshas. And there are specific centers operating in the Sharira for this purpose. For facilitating this Paga Vishesha or Parinama Vishesha. Of course, one principal center is the Agni, Dhatu Agni. Apart from that, the idea of Srotas and the idea of Kala are all related to this. Please keep those points in mind. We are not going to discuss that in elaborate at this point, but we will come to it later. The idea of Srotas and Kala. We will go back to, or we will try to go back to doshas. So, Aharasaram, Bhudagni, Dhatwagni, Rasadhadu, subsequent dhadus. We found that there are unique blend of Panchabhutas in the formation of each of the dhadus. We have discussed one important point earlier. I am repeating it again. What is that? We do not find any doshagnis explained in the text. We have somewhat lucid explanations regarding Bhudagnis and Dhatwagnis, either directly in the text or with the commentators. But we do not find any description regarding the concept called Doshagni. We say that our entire conceptual foundation is spinning around the idea of Tridoshas. But at certain points, do we really know what dosha is, or the idea of dosha? Forget about the real dosha or virtual dosha or whatever it is. The idea of the concept of dosha is clear or not. So while thinking about such things, we come across the fact that we do not find any description, detailing about doshagnis by the authors. So while making this statement, we have to go for a quick replay of all the events. What is the importance of Agni? Why the concept of Agni is brought into the situation of Dhatu formation? Or what is the significance of Agni? Why it is told that Eshasaras Chigitsayaha Yad Agnehe Parirakshanam? Why it is told that Samaprakopau Doshanam Sarvesham Agni Hetukau? So many things are spinning around the concept of Agni, and we do not find any dosha Agni explained. This is because doshas are not the building materials of Sharira. I do not know whether I am making a very controversial statement or not. Unlike bhutas and dhatus, doshas are not the building materials of Sharira. It is true that we have a pratijna called Dashadhadu Malamulam Sada Dehasya. I do not want to make any pratijna lankhanam. But still, I would like to put forward one idea that doshas are not the building materials of Sharira. They are not separate materials made out of bhutas. They are not separate materials made out of bhutas. Then what is dosha? Or what is the idea of tridosha? They are mirror images of the bhutas. Based on the behaviors, bhutas form three sets of operational units. We have discussed this many times earlier. Three agencies are assigned or visualized, hypothetically conceptualized. Doshas are the mirror images of the bhutas set into three operational units, each having specific behavioral pattern. It's having specific behavioral pattern. Doshas represent the programmed tendency of bhutas in a living body to behave in a peculiar manner. Doshas represent the programmed tendency of bhutas, panchabhutas, in a living body to behave in a peculiar manner, grouping themselves into three to deliver the three fundamental responses or responsibilities, that is, to accumulate, to transform, and to distribute. Doshas represent the programmed tendency of bhutas in a living body to behave in a peculiar manner, grouping themselves into three to deliver the three fundamental responsibilities: to accumulate, to transform, and to distribute. With this idea in our minds, let us look at Kabha. Then Kabha is a representation of the tendency of the bhutas in a living body to organize within, under the leadership of Prithvi and Jala, the overwhelming presence of Prithvi and Jala, to deliver the responsibility of accumulate. Kabha is a representation of a tendency of the bhutas in a living body to organize within, under the overwhelming dominance of Prithvi and Jala, to deliver the responsibility of to accumulate. Again, Kabha is the representation of a state or status in Sharira, where the bhutas accumulated with an overwhelming dominance of Prithvi and Jala. Representation of a state or status where the bhutas accumulate with an overwhelming presence, dominance of Prithvi and Jala. Again, Kabha represents a process or incidence where the overwhelming presence of Prithvi and Jala makes everything else immaterial. A process in which the overwhelming presence of Prithvi and Jala makes everything else immaterial. So here we find a dosha can reflect either a tendency or a state or status or a process or incidence. A dosha reflects a tendency sometimes, a state or status sometimes, a process or incidence of a particular set of bhutas which is programmed by life. Which is programmed by the principle of life. So in the same way that we found Kabha One can understand Pitta and Vayu also. That way, Pitta is a representation of the organization of Bhutas in the Sharira with an overwhelming predominance to Agni. With an overwhelming predominance to Agni to deliver the responsibility of transformations. As we mentioned in the case of Kabha, it can be a tendency, it can be a state or a status, or it can be a process or incidence. But basically, it is a situation where there is an overwhelming predominance of Agni among the 5 Bhutas. So Pitta represents everything related to that. Similarly, Vada represents the organization of Bhutas in the Sharira with an overwhelming predominance to Vayu and Akasha to deliver the responsibility of distribution and transformation. Transportation. Here also it can be a tendency, it can be a status, it can be a process. So we started with the Aharasara, Bhudagnis, Dhatognis, Rasadhadu, subsequent dhatus. And unique blend of Bhudas in each dhatu. And the Samanya Paka and Vishesha Paka. Paga Vishesha. And the distribution of Bhudas in the entire Sharira, which is mirrored as an image by 3 different agencies, Kapha, Pitta and Vayu. So based on that, I mentioned that doshas are not the actual building materials of Sharira like Bhutas or Dhatus, and they are not separate materials made out of Bhutas. They are not separate materials made out of Bhutas. Instead, they are just mirror images of the Bhutas, 3 different types, each one representing a tendency or a status or a process. So this is the Prakritavastha of Sharira. Only if this Prakritavastha is well conceived, then only we can go beyond that. Then only we can think about what is going to happen when there is a departure from this. Sharira has a default design. So that Prakritavastha with all the Visheshas inherent, Sharira has a default design. This design exhibits specific pattern of distribution of Bhutas, which develop into Dhadus, Avayavas, Srotasas, Ashayas, etc. etc. Swabhava. Swabhavam is the program based on which this system is operating. Swabhavam is the program. So this default design is programmed to operate in a specific pattern. That is its swabhava. This is made possible by the specific pattern of association of bhutas. This is made possible by a peculiar pattern of association of bhutas. Identifying that pattern is very important. And observing the Sharira keenly with all these things in our minds, all these ideas in our minds will reveal the idea of doshas in a clearer manner, in a better manner. This is very important. Before going to dosha dushti, we should understand what we are talking about. See, if we go back to the basics once again, the bhutas that are accumulated from the ahara, bhutas that are accumulated from the ahara are distributed throughout the sharira in the form of rasa or rasadhatu, through the srodasas, especially the rasavaha srodasas, which may be called as the srodas samanyam. So, bhutas accumulated from the ahara are distributed throughout the sharira in the form of rasa, and they engage in continuous transformations which are happening in specific srodasas. Srodo vishesham. Rasavaha srodas is srodas samanyam. Whereas the specific srodasas for each dhatu may be srodo vishesham, ending up in the formation of dhatu vishesham. Bhutas accumulated, slowly ending up in the formation of dhatu vishesham. Receiving, processing, assimilating, and accumulating bhutas. Receiving, processing, assimilating, and accumulating bhutas from ahara happening in the koshta, and there is a system with Agni as its center, Kendra. Agni as the center. With this picture in our minds, it can be proposed that bhutas organize into dhadus, during this koshta-centric operations. During this koshta-centric operations. So what? The primary understanding of the dosha-based narrative of Sharira is also a koshta-centric narrative. I repeat, as the process, receiving, processing, assimilating, and accumulating of bhutas from the ahara is fundamentally happening in the koshta, which is a Agni-centered system, the mirror imaging of these bhutas getting organized into doshas can also be happening in this Agni-centric system, which is a Koshta-centric system, and hence the dosha-based narrative of human sharira is basically, to the core, is a Agni-centric narrative or a Koshta-centric narrative. That is why we find the doshas being explained primarily in and around Koshta. Like te vyabino bihrunnabhyo radho madhyordho samshrayaha. Then we find the explanation of Koshta, then we find the explanation of Agni. So dosha-based narrative of Sharira fundamentally spins around this Koshta-centric or Agni-centric narrative of the Sharira. So these ideas are to be very clearly understood. It is very easy. It is very easy to follow the text as such without any further discussion about it. See, we just see dhadukshayagarer vayu kupyatyadi nishevidaihi, all these things, okay. और तिक्तोषण कषायाल्परूक्ष प्रमिद भोजनैः धारणो दीरण निशा जागरत्युच्च भाषणैः etc etc etc. But when we try to understand what we are talking about, what this dosha is, I think we have to go further deep into the leads what we take from the Anya Shastras as well. So I think today we will conclude here. I think we have a couple of points to discuss. Doshagni has been mentioned in the Sharira Sthana of Ashtanga Sakra. Yes, that is true. But that idea is not properly elaborated, because there the Jadharagni itself is considered as the dosha. But when we look into the deeper aspects or the finer aspects of that idea, we will find that, see, like the bhutas getting assimilated, bhutas used to nourish the dhadus, such a thing is not happening in the nourishment of doshas. I know that many people now thinking about that Adau Shadrasamapyannam Madhuri Bhutam Hirayed, so the Avasthapagam, there is dosha vruddhi. So that is something which is happening from the ahara. So doshas are there, nourished by the ahara. It is not so. It is not like that. Doshas are not getting nourished as such. So then there are many other questions. Are doshas panchabhautik or not? Is it not there? They are also PMB. What is that? With the predominance of particular bhutas. See, doshas are panchabhautik. See, doshas are technical explanation of how panchabhutas are getting organized in a living body. So that way, when you say something about any of the doshas, Vayu or Kabha, it is reflecting an image of certain doshas in a certain with certain tendency, or so bhutas with a certain tendency or with a peculiar status or expressing an incident. No doubt about it. But they are not separate entities. They are not separate entities other than bhutas, or they are not evolved substances like dhatu or mala. What is malarupi, kapha, pitta, etc., which is forming during pakam. I think at one point, to get a better understanding of doshas again, we will come to that pakam, that avasthapagam and nishtapagam. Is this rasadhatu nourish all dhatus, or all dhatus are nourished by ahara rasa? Because rasad, rakta, etc. leads to an idea that rakta nourished by rasadhatu. Yes, rasadhatu is the fundamental material which is used within the system. Ahara rasa is not within the system. That is why I mentioned that technically speaking, there is a difference. It is about the initiation, the beginning of the dhatu agnipaga. How doshas get nourished, then if not avasthapaka. Yeah, that is the point which I was mentioning. It's not about getting nourished or otherwise. It is about how the entire process is presided over by. The entire process of ahara parinama from beginning to end is presided over by 3 sets of events. 3 sets of events where the dosha predominance reflects the bhuta predominance. Dosha predominance just represents the bhuta predominance. It is not just about the nourishment of bhutas, doshas as separate entities. I think we will come to that point as well. We say incomplete journey of bhuta transformation is dosha and complete journey is dhatu. Oh, see, complete formation is journey is dhatu. That is true, but incomplete bhuta is incomplete journey of bhuta transformation is dhoda. See, dosha is about expressing. See, as I mentioned earlier, in any given situation, bhutas are operational. And these bhutas in a living body decides to operate functionally, is programmed to operate functionally in 3 different categories. So doshas are just the technical expression of these 3 categories. So there is no question of complete journey or incomplete journey. But the second part of the statement is true. Complete journey of that transformation of bhuta is dhatu. That is true. But the first part is to be rephrased. So it is, I think we can go deeper and deeper, so that at one point, without any of the explanations, we will understand what dosha dushti is, what samprapi. Another point of discussion in today's paper, which I was mentioning, is that no Vaidya is understanding or is focusing on the idea of samprapti vikhatana. It is a ghost concept. See how things have changed. Again, I think I have to agree with that statements. We use big words, we use big jargons, but honestly, do we use it, or do we know how to use them, is a big question. And when senior Vaidyas and teachers are not using, how we can expect the students and young practitioners to use them? Because they are not trained during their formative years. They do not know. See, suppose I have a very sophisticated gadget with me, whatever it is. This is beneficial to me only when I learn how to use this. Otherwise, this is a waste, however precious it is. So Ayurveda may be precious. Ayurveda may have very precious ideas. Ayurveda may have a lot of wisdom in it. But in the hands of those people who are not acquainted with it, who are not familiar with its usage, it is just a toy. It is just a toy, nothing more than that. So I think we have to go further deep, understand the idea, don't bother about the text as such, validate the conceptual ideas or theories with the clinics. That is the actual testing stones for the theories. So, sorry for extending the session unnecessarily. Wish you all a happy learning. And I'm very happy to see that today was the 50th episode, 50th episode of our session. 50 episodes means there are material of 25 hours, 1 day plus 1 hour. So if somebody is sitting and start listening from the session 1 entire day plus 1 hour material is there. And it was a very beautiful journey. And thank you one and all in the room for traveling with me. So Bhishajam Sadhu Ruktanam Bhadram Agamachalinam Abhyastakarmanam Bhadram Bhadrabhilashanam. Wish to meet you all soon. Thank you very much.